Good morning, beautiful people. Today I'd like to talk about compassion. And I wanted to start off with a little rhyme which is called Dare to Be. When a new day begins, dare to smile gratefully. When there is darkness, dare to be the first to shine a light. When there is injustice, dare to be the first to condemn it. When something seems difficult, dare to do it anyway. When life seems to beat you down, dare to fight back. When there seems to be no hope, dare to find some. When you're feeling tired, dare to keep going. When times are tough, dare to be tougher. When love hurts, dare to love again. When someone is hurting, dare to help them heal. When another is lost, dare to help them to find their way. When a friend falls, dare to be the first to extend a hand. When you cross paths with another, dare to make them smile. When you feel great, dare to help someone else feel great too. And when the day has ended, dare to feel as you've done your best. Dare to be the best that you could ever be at all times. Dare to be. That's a poem that's in Life, the Truth, and Being Free by Steve Maraboli. Thank you, Steve, for your beautiful wisdom. Now, compassion is a word which is often misunderstood. It's often used in the wrong context. And some people think it's a word which implies weakness. Now, every word has their yin and the yang, their darkness and their light. Well, at least every word except love. But I think Bob Marley really summed up compassion when he said, one love, one heart, one destiny. Because compassion is the basis of morality. And it was Anne Frank who famously belied her tender years when she said that no one has ever become poor by giving. There's a myth in this world that if we give things away, we don't get them back. But the truth is that the universe honours everything that we give by ensuring that we receive tenfold. The more we give, the more we receive. You get what you give and more. It's one of the unwritten rules of life. It's one of the unwritten codes of the universe. And I think compassion was beautifully illustrated by Tahereh Mafi in the book Shatter Me. All I ever wanted was to reach out and touch another human being, not just with my hands, but with my heart. And anyone who's suffered loneliness, anyone who's been denied love, dreams of a world filled with compassion. One of my all-time heroes is Mother Teresa for what she did to the sick, to the poor, and the time she dedicated in her life to helping people who didn't have a home and didn't have health. And it's very easy to look at her and to just accept that she's out there doing it, so why should anyone else do it? But Mother Teresa used to dedicate her entire life to helping other people. And she didn't show off about it. She wasn't the kind of person who shouted from the rooftops saying, look at me, look at what I'm doing, everyone else should be doing the same. Because Mother Teresa had no judgment for other people. She just accepted that she was on a mission to help the world, to help all these people that she didn't even know, to help the strangers who lived in the streets. And all she wanted to do was to bring to them the greatest life that they could ever dream of. The greatest life that the situation of the world could allow these people. Now that wasn't widescreen TVs, VIP hospitality, celebrity status. But what it was to be heard by people when the world had seemed like it would no longer listen. To be given food by people when it seemed that the world had no food to give. To have a home in a world where they were homeless. And to feel the power of love in a world which had taught them only about fear. She filled their lives. She filled their empty cups. She filled their universe with hope, with love, and with something when they'd come to the streets with absolutely nothing. Now, it's very easy to judge homeless people by saying, oh, yeah, what's their story? They've run away from home. There must be another reason. They're probably alcoholics. They probably drink too much. They've probably broken someone's heart. But actually, we know in this world now that we're all on a mission. We're all in the universal classroom. We're all here to learn our lesson. And The beautiful thing about Mother Teresa is she didn't judge people by their past. These people often had a very genuine story as to why they're on the street. Sometimes it might have been trauma, it might have been some kind of disaster, it may have been abuse in their house. It was probably that their greatest teacher, the people closest to them, their family, were not treating them the way they wanted to be treated. It may have been a broken heart, it may have been that everyone around them died, it may have been poverty. It doesn't matter. Because Mother Teresa was filled with this word that we call compassion. She had no judgment. She didn't look them in the eyes when they were drinking alcohol and say, "Oh, well, you shouldn't be doing that." She said, "How can I help?" And there's a famous quote, I think it was a conversation she had with Wayne Dyer one time when they were waiting to go on a chat show, a very rare appearance on a chat show, where Wayne Dyer asked Mother Teresa, "What is the one piece of advice you would give people in the world about how they can help?" And she said, "It's not about giving money. It's not about rescuing people. It's not about writing a check or giving them a jumper or giving them a bed to sleep on or a room to sleep in. No. What she said was, everyone in the world should just go out on the streets one night in the place they live, and they should meet a homeless person, and they should look them in the eye and ask them how they are. Hear their story, listen to them, and be with them." She said that's the best thing that anyone could possibly do on this planet for homeless people. Because it's all right reading stories about what it's like to be homeless. It's all right seeing them in the day when you're out shopping or you're on your merry mission through life. But to see them in the coldest, darkest night, and to look them in the eyes, and to be with them, and to talk with them, and to look at them with no judgment, to hold their hand, to understand. That is the greatest gift that we can give them, and also the greatest gift we can give ourselves. Because in truth, that person is us. Every single person's journey on this planet is our journey. Anything that crosses our lives is a reason that we need to know that story so we can learn. And whether that's a homeless person, or whether that's Donald Trump, whether that's that person that bullied us at school, whether it's our mother or our father, our best friend, or it's our greatest enemy. And compassion is about understanding everything and everyone on this planet. And not just understanding, but also sitting beside them and sending them love. Because one of the great philosophies we can have in this world is to make sure that we know more today about the world than we knew yesterday. That we can somehow lessen the suffering of others by reaching out a hand, by reaching out our hearts and allowing them into our lives. And not just reading the book, but looking into their soul and really having empathy, understanding and love for that other person. If we have no peace in our lives, in our hearts, in our souls, it's because we've forgotten that we all belong to each other. That is the greatest secret of this lifetime. I don't know if you've ever seen the video about the egg. I'll send the link round after I've sent out this tiny drop of wisdom. But essentially that is saying that the universe that we live in is our universe. That means that you are the universe. You are everything within this universe. Your Mother Teresa, your Wayne Dyer, your Louise Hay, your Eckhart Tolle. You were Hitler. You were Mussolini. You were Stalin. You're Donald Trump. You're your dog. You're Mary Curtis. You're Peter Sanderson. All these stories and all these lives and all these people and all these souls are reflections of a different aspect of us, a different aspect of ourselves. And if you're annoyed with your husband or your wife or your lover, you're essentially annoyed at yourself. There's something in that person that is giving you a message about yourself. It's not a direct message, it's not a direct reflection of that mirror, but what it is the thing that they trigger inside you is the thing you need to work on. So if Donald Trump triggers you because you think he's arrogant, because he doesn't listen, because he's selfish, because he doesn't care for the earth, that means that something inside you is annoyed about an aspect of yourself. Maybe it's a very small portion of you that that remain selfish about certain issues. But there's some imbalance in the yin and the yang. There's some imbalance in the universe about one subject. And if you really listen to your body and to yourself, you'll be able to feel that. And compassion can be a very heavy feeling because there's so much pain in the world. But what we have to make sure is that we send pure love, pure white light, just as we do in the Sacred Pause healing laboratories, where we send out that white light, that pure white light from our heart to help someone heal. And we only think positive thoughts about them. We visualize them in that state of perfect health. And compassion is a similar thing. When we send out love, we can often feel people's pain, their heaviness, the parts of them where the negativity resides, the parts of us where our negativity resides. Because ultimately it is a reflection of us. And forgiving people can be difficult. When people have done crimes that really feel unbearable, it's very difficult to forgive. But what you have to remember is when you have compassion for someone, when you want to forgive someone, when you want to send them love, that ultimately the forgiveness, the gratitude for learning the lesson, that lies on our side of the court. It's not on their side. So if you're forgiving Hitler, poor old Hitler, he's always the person that I always think of whenever I think of the ultimate person who's hard to forgive. But actually, if you look at him and you understand that the journey he went on was extraordinarily difficult, imagine what kind of life he had to have to get to the point where he took out the actions that he did in life, where he felt it was necessary to do what he did to human beings. He must have been in deep, deep pain. But if you're wanting to forgive him, what you're doing is you're forgiving that aspect of you. You're letting go of his actions. You're letting go of that part of him which was angry, that part of him which sought revenge, that part of him which wanted to get that one-upmanship, that victory, that competitive streak inside him, which meant that he had to kill people and encourage people to kill people, to win a war, to fight fire with fire. And if you can forgive that part of yourself, then compassion will be your greatest ally. Yeah, I wanted to give a small example from my life of where I could have used compassion when I didn't. And that was in a relationship that I had with a girl when I was travelling around the world. And the 26-year-old version of me who was travelling all by himself and had an awful lot to learn about life fell in love with this beautiful girl. We were both going in different directions around the world, but we fell into each other's arms and we seized the opportunity. We both changed our travel plans and we travelled together. And it was an incredible 3 or 4 months that we spent together because we were young, we were happy, we were free, and we were adventurers taking on the world. We went to Australia, Fiji, New Zealand, Hong Kong, all these incredible places together, and we were both living in paradise. And then somehow it all got broken. Almost in the space of 1 week when we got home, because we were no longer in that beautiful bubble of journeying and that beautiful bubble of just having 100% time for each other. Suddenly, all the negative elements of a relationship started to rear their ugly heads. She got depressed. She got sad. We both got jealous because suddenly we were other people to contend with. We had families and we had friends all around us, and suddenly we didn't have this other person all to ourselves. Suddenly we had to earn money again, and we had to go back into the big wide world and get jobs. And whereas before life was perfect and every day was a holiday, suddenly life now was a big challenge. And there was a lot of anger inside this girl. And at the time I thought it was all her. And as she got more and more depressed, she actually started getting violent. She started showing great anger against me, fighting against me. Her blood was boiling almost every time she looked me in the eyes, but she still loved me. So there was this really strange contrast of love and fear and hate and jealousy. Now at the time, I thought it was all her. I thought all of it was her. I was young, I didn't understand the way of the world. I just couldn't deal with all this anger and abuse that I was getting, and so I blocked her out of my life, completely blocked her. And she fought and left these messages, and I ignored them, and she even wrote a letter to my boss saying that I was resigning. And I was so angry with her, suddenly. This anger that she'd shown towards me was then being channeled into me. Now, obviously, I ended that relationship in a very strange way, that by blocking her out of my life. And it's definitely not something I'd advise anyone to do. Because I thought it was all about her. I thought all the problems were on her side. And now, as a 43-year-old man who's on a spiritual journey and learning a lot about life, I see that actually I had to take responsibility for all of that. That I was bringing this life upon myself, that I was bringing her anger upon myself, that I'd attracted her into my life. That while I was traveling, life was paradise, but when you had to get back to the real world, I had some major issues with living in that working space. And instead of blocking her off, what I should have done was sent her love, was have compassion for her situation, was stand by her all the way. Not necessarily in a relationship, but as a friend, as a fellow human being, because she ultimately was me. And I haven't spoken to this girl for a decade, maybe more. But if I ever did bump into her in the street again, or if our paths ever crossed, I would send her a huge apology. Please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you, I love you. Because she was one of my greatest teachers. And it was only 10 years later, after the relationship, that I realized that. But boy, oh boy, was that a big lesson to learn. Maybe we all have someone like that who's come across our lives. I think people call them twin flames. There's other people in our lives who we would call a soulmate. But I think it's important that we always look at our life and we say, how would our life be different if we stopped making negative judgments and assumptions about people that cross our lives? And I think this is the day, if we haven't already, to start looking at the world without any judgment, to look for the good and the beauty in everyone, and to see the beauty in ourselves, and to accept that we're on a journey of growth, and until we're enlightened, we will always be on that journey, and that we always can learn. And if we learn in a state of love, in that heart space, in that eagle space, then it's a much easier space to learn, because we can have compassion for people. We can respect other people's journeys. We can accept that that person in the street who's drinking a bottle of whiskey still needs us, and we shouldn't judge them because they've got a bottle of alcohol in their hand. If there's someone in our office who really riles us, that gets to us, that triggers us, why do they trigger us? And can we send them love? Can we send them compassion? Can we be there alongside them on their journey? Can we understand that they're in that place for a reason and that they represent something in our own lives? Make no assumptions. Make no judgments. Always have kindness and respect. And that way our life will be far more successful. More smiling, less worrying, more compassion, less judgment. More blessed, less stressed. More love, less hate. We're all different. The world would be boring if we weren't. We all have a different set of eyes, but we all have the same heart. Don't judge, understand, have empathy. You see, a human being is part of the whole, and we call it the universe. And in our human skin, with our human flesh, we are limited to time and to space. We experience ourselves, we experience our thoughts, we feel as if something within us is separate from the rest. It's kind of an optical delusion of our own consciousness. And Einstein said that this delusion is a kind of prison for us. And our major task in this life is to learn how to escape that prison. Because it restricts us on our personal desires. It restricts us on our affections for other people. It can make being very close to someone very difficult. And our task is to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle, by widening the net that we put into the ocean of compassion, so we can embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its absolute perfect beauty. The best way to get out of this labyrinth of suffering is to forgive people, to forgive what we see, to have compassion. Be kind for everyone you meet, because They're all fighting a harder battle than us. So if there's someone in your life who you really are struggling to forgive, maybe it was a parent because they were abusive, or it was an ex-partner who made your life hell, or someone left you, someone deserted you, and you think, how can they do that to me? Remember that you will be helping yourself by having compassion for that person. If you continue to live in that zone where you're just angry at them, where you're despairing at what they did to you, how they left you and they didn't think about you, and you've been isolated in this world, just go to that heart space and breathe. And remember the person that perhaps you fell in love with before they left you. And remember that person still exists, and also consider that perhaps they are struggling themselves. And yes, it hurt when they left you. Yes, it hurt when they disappeared from your life. Yes, it hurt when they abused you. But what led them to get to that place? Ultimately, they came from the same place in the universe that you came from too. And they have been on a different, unique journey. And perhaps part of that journey has been hell. It's been impossible. It's been destructive inside us. And if you can forgive them, what you're doing is releasing that part of yourself. You're opening that door to allow love to come in, instead of blocking yourself off from the fear and the darkness and the hate. Help them dance with their shadow. Help them dance with their darkness. But ultimately, help yourself. And if you help yourself, if you work on yourself, if you forgive everyone else within your sphere, then your life will get better, because you will grow. Because you'll no longer have those blocks, and you'll no longer come from that place of great fear. Compassion, compassion, compassion. Thank you so much for listening. It's been an honor talking to you today. I love you all. Love and peace. Peter.